Instagram and all of that, what do you feel are good ones to watch? You know, that not necessarily the next big thing, because that is kind of hard to pinpoint. It's kind of, you know, you can see it coming, but you know, the general public is really what's going to decide it. But if you were to invest some time in some sort of digital social media platform, what's something that you feel would be worth someone's time?
Well, so two things. One is it depends on what your role is and what you do, you know, all day. So, you know, but I think more broadly speaking, I always look for the thing that fills some sort of consumer need and has ability to make money on it. I mean, that's like the simplest way of framing it in the world, but you know, that's, I think, what made Facebook take off is it filled this consumer need to connect with people who weren't necessarily nearby and to do it efficiently, you know, and some people aren't into that. They don't need it. They don't like it. And some people love it. You know, I use it to keep in touch with my family who's 3,000 miles away. And it's like the #1 way I keep in touch with my family is through Facebook, you know. So I'm always looking for things that, you know, that have some sort of value. And it could have, or 10 different ways they could have value. You know, so for me, my challenge always with Instagram is like, well, how do I monetize this? What is it offering that just taking a picture with my phone and putting it on Facebook doesn't offer? Yeah, it has these overlays and, you know, but 2 years from now, when 50 other applications can offer that, and we still haven't figured out how to make money at it, is that really going to add value? Are people willing to pay for it? You know, is it something that you can get a 99-cent per download, you know, fee for? So I'm always looking for things that actually have some sustainability. And then the other side of it is, can they be integrated to a product to make the product better? So, and that's the thing that I think Facebook bought Instagram for, is they sort of felt like it was something that's going to help them appear innovative, and that's, instead of developing it, they just bought it. You know, again, I think they overpaid for it, but I think that there was a strategy behind it that had more to do with, hey, it's a tool that complements what we're doing and we don't already have, you know. But I think ultimately the ones I'm always looking at are the ones that I see, like, what value are you adding that has sustainability to it, you know? And I know I keep coming back to something like, and I'm trying to think of what applications, like gaming is probably the best example of that. It created a whole new world, you know, like social gaming, you know, it created this whole new behavior that people really were willing to pay for, you know, and then they had this smart business model, which you see in more traditional gaming, which is free entry, and then you pay to move up, you know, or you pay for features. You know, so there was a business model to it. And now you've got gamification of all these other things, so now they're taking that strategy and they're integrating it into all sorts of other fields. By the way, including mine. You know, gamification is under survey research too. You know, so it's become something that if you understand the world of gaming, you understand how to turn a survey into a game. You start to understand how to turn recruiting people to a survey into a game. You understand how to turn incentivizing people to take a survey into a game. You know, and so that's what I'm always looking for, things that, like, I think, ooh, are there 10 other applications of this that could ultimately make money and make this concept take off in a lot of different directions. That's the way I look at it. But it's hard to predict that, because you never really know. People don't know what they want until they see it. And, you know, I have a friend who always jokes that concept testing doesn't work because people don't know what they want until it exists. You know, and you really have to put something in front of them before they can get it when it's totally new.
And sometimes you have to take it away for them to really want it.
Yes, that's true too. That's a great point.
#1
yeah.
Is that the fastest way to get someone interested in whatever it is that you're selling is take it away from them immediately.
Yeah.
And then all of a sudden now they want it.
Yeah. No, that's one way to know. Is sort of like, does the dialogue get going and that kind of thing. Yeah.
Hi, Kerry. Thank you so much for the presentation.
Sure.
I've seen a couple teenagers I know, specifically a high school junior and a college junior, are over Facebook. They say they want to have a real experience with people, their friends. So you've got kids, you know, teens, but several years apart. Just curious, is this a trend?
That they want to have a real experience with what? With each other? Or
No, with their friends. They just said, I don't know, I'd rather talk to my friends in person. I'd rather see my friends than be on Facebook.
Yeah, okay, I see what you're saying. Well, I think that sort of speaks to the human nature, and it kind of goes back to what I was saying about the living room and the communal experience. It's not a replacement, it's a complement. And I think it's a trend with the younger generation in the sense that they grew up on things like Facebook, so now they're discovering there's more of the world than their computer, you know? And that's just like, that's growing up, you know what I mean?
I've also heard kids say Facebook is for old people, which I find fascinating.
Yeah.
They started off as being they say that now, seriously. They say that.
I know, and it's so funny.
Their parents got on, their aunts and uncles got on, and they don't want their lives to be.
Yeah, when your grandmother all of a sudden sends you a friend request, it hits you very quickly.
So I have a couple thoughts on that, because I feel like I've been hearing that for a few years now, and yet Facebook didn't go away, it got bigger, and I don't see teens dropping out en masse. In fact, all the teenagers that I know are on Facebook all the darn time, you know, and like they're constantly on Facebook, and they do it through mobile apps now. So it kind of changed how they are accessing it, but they're constantly Facebooking. I think there's probably some truth to, like, younger guys are probably not, you know, they're always going after the next innovative thing, and Facebook is now for them not innovative because it's been around their entire memory, basically. But I don't think, there was this sense that, like, Facebook was losing its cool factor, and I don't think there's a whole lot of data to prove that's true. I don't see huge attrition rates. I don't see consumer data saying we think it's less cool now. In fact, we see Facebook growing. It is growing at the older end because the younger end adopted it first. So you see that growth at a bit of an older end. But it kind of goes back to the theme I was saying before about family. We assume that kids don't want to interact with their parents. And it's funny, I had this exact conversation with my sister the other day because her son just graduated from high school 2 days ago. And she had such a different relationship with her kids than we had with our parents. Completely different generational standpoint. And we talked about it in the context of college, where parents now go to orientation. I was like, parents go to orientation? What? Like, I didn't bring my parents to orientation to college. That's crazy. She's like, every college does that now. The relationship between boomers and their kids is much tighter. It's much friendlier. And so this whole idea that kids wouldn't want to interact with their parents is Gen X perpetuated. It's actually not teenager perpetuated. I don't actually see a whole lot of data to prove that's true. If anything, I see a lot of data to show that people like things that facilitate family interaction. Family is really important to people, especially in a bad economy when, you know, everything around you is kind of plummeting. Like, these are the people that you rely on to be your support system. They're the people you trust. And even though there is the cool factor of it, it's not important enough to them that they're abandoning it. They might be hiding certain pictures from their parents. They might not be sharing as holistically as they might have otherwise. They're starting to understand that, you know, Facebook is a public forum, even though it's privatized on the outside. Everybody in your network can see everything. So I think they're starting to get hip to that, but I don't see this giant wave of abandonment. And I think that acquisitions like Instagram are precisely to avoid that perception that it's losing its cool factor. Yeah.
You said you use Facebook specifically to communicate with your family, but do you use it for other things as well?
I use it for everything. I'm like a Facebook addict, so don't ask me. Yeah, absolutely. I use it to promote this event. You know? Yeah, I use it. I tend, for me, I've sort of compartmentalized LinkedIn for work for the most part, Facebook for friends and family, although I have a lot of friends that I work with, so they do tend to bleed into each other a little bit. No, and I think that's the thing with Facebook. I think they're looking for, and it kind of goes back to the question, I don't know your name, but that you were asking about things I look out for. I think Facebook is always trying to figure out how to evolve to be beyond, okay, now we got you connecting with your family and sharing photos of graduation and living vicariously through sisters' photos when you couldn't be there and that kind of stuff. What's the next thing? How do we facilitate that dialogue that feels more real and more personal? You know, and actually a friend of mine wrote an article the other day kind of waxing philosophical on different ways Facebook can make money, and I thought many of them were kind of flawed, but the one I really liked was this idea of integrating almost like a Skype interface, that you were really, you know, talking to people more one-on-one through Facebook and making it more of that personal experience that feels more human and more analog in nature.
Do you think people expect Facebook to fail because MySpace failed and collapsed? Is that
That's an interesting question.
I mean, I think that's what.
Well,
and
MySpace was a shitty site, though.
Yeah.
At the very beginning, it was a crappy site.
Yeah.
We put up with the crap because it was the only thing we had for that kind of communication.
Yeah, it was either that or Friendster.
It was
Friendster was worse. It was worse.
I got rid of all the crap. You could
That's
actually
true.
read the page, which I thought was a huge, you know, phenomenal advancement. Imagine that you can read the page you're trying to read. And they've done a really good job of adding on lots of features. But I do wonder. I mean, no one is totally like unkillable, right?
Yeah, I mean, no one.
Yeah.
no one's infallible, and I guess my thought on it was that, like, at a certain point, like, I was very resistant to Facebook, although I was in law school, because I was like, I don't want my information out there, and then I opened MySpace, and then it got a little dicey, like, you had different types of performers, let's just say.
I just found it dizzy.
And it just became a place where I didn't want to have my profile, so I shifted to Facebook in my second year of law school, and then it seems like everyone shifted over and abandoned their MySpace page, although it had cool features with like music and personalization that I don't think that Facebook has
gone after.
So I guess my thought is that because the younger generation or people who are shifting to social media sort of deter? I mean, that's just
I think that's part of it. I mean,
curiosity.
I think it's sort of human nature to you know, take small flaws and turn them into bigger flaws than they actually are. You know, I think that's sort of the nature of our media today. And so when Facebook makes one questionable move, whether you think it's buying Instagram or going public or whatever the case may be, everybody jumps to attack it, you know, and it's sort of like the cool thing to do. But to question it because they want to be the ones sort of who predicted that first. I think some of that comes from other social media efforts not working previously. I actually think it comes from, you know, the founder being young, you know, and so there being a question of like, what does he know? You know, even though he's got this team of brilliant people who are experienced working for him, you know, it's not just one guy, you know, in his backyard. You know, it's a huge company. So I think it's a little bit of both, and I think on some level there's the aspect of, you know, I feel like I hear that about every company. I don't think it's specific to Facebook. I feel like I hear, you know, this company's going to go out of business, or this is a bad thing, and I just think that's sort of in the media industry, and that's why I want to talk about some of the myths that we perpetuate. I think we tend to exaggerate things beyond what is practically likely to happen.
Yeah, you were talking about Facebook getting more like Skype. Isn't that Google Plus? And why isn't that succeeding more?
My opinion, and I don't actually have data to back this up, is that the world didn't need Google Plus. It had Facebook. You know, you know. Yeah, but it has to reach critical mass before that's valuable, and the critical mass is on Facebook already. And I remember when it launched, I was like, this is a lot of ado over, I have no reason to sign up for this. Like, it's not fulfilling any need that I have, you know? And I think a lot of people I know sign up for it just out of curiosity, but then the momentum stopped a month later, and I was like, well, that's,
but it can also seem a little pushy too. You know, I'm a very avid Google person, but I love my Facebook and I love my Skype, and I'm a traditionalist. I stick with what I know. And Google was very, very pushy. It was almost as if every time I logged into my Gmail, there was a new thing that was popping up telling me we're shifting this way, whether you like it or not. Yeah. And you know, when it was almost like kind of like my favorite grandmother telling me I'm moving across the country or across the world, and you can't communicate with me anymore. And it's like, no, I like our tea on Sunday. Like, exactly. I don't want to do it online. So I feel like that was part of it too. They were very pushy with it.
Yeah, and I think the pushiness maybe overstated the potential of it, actually, because people were talking about the pushiness of it, and really, fundamentally, if you take a step back, it's like, what need does this fulfill for consumers?
Right.
You know, and I just looked at it, I'm like, this is really kind of simple. Like, it's not filling a marketplace need. You know, and the thing to understand about Google too, and this is probably the coolest thing in the world if you work there, but if you're investing in it, it's something to watch out for. They have money to throw at cool stuff to see if it works, and they do it all the time. You know, and so you have to be wary of some of the stuff they do, because some of the stuff works great. Android, Gmail. Some of the stuff is, you know, search. You know, they've hit the ball out of the park on a lot of things, but they've also swung and missed on a lot of stuff. And you have to kind of be careful to see, you know, does this just intuitively make sense from a consumer perspective?